All right, here we go, everybody. Sorry I was a minute late. Still figuring out all this live stream stuff. We're going to go ahead and get the announcement out for the Gobble Jam. So, for those of you who joined on itch.io, we're going to open up the Gobble Jam here in just a minute. I see there's 11 of you. Yep, here we go. Awesome. There it is. So, Gobble Jam is officially live with about 2 days, 16 hours for us to come up with something really fun. And what we're going to be looking at here is creating your own experience using Bonfire. But before we get started, I do want to make sure that everybody knows to come here for the kickoff. Let's see here. So let me go ahead and one moment. Get this rolling. Boom. Okay. And then we are live for the 2024 Gobble Jam. Let's get this. There it is. Okay. Get that up and running. Get this up and running as well. Sorry, everybody. We'll be up and running in just a minute. Just want to make sure everybody knows where to come for the kickoff. This is recorded, so it'll be available later as well. Okay. There we go. All right. So we're showing 11 joined. I just want to make sure people can find this first before we get too into it. Let's see here. Discord as well. Should probably paste it in there as well. Okay. We are live with the 2024 Gobble Jam. There we go. We got some more people trickling in. Okay. And in a minute, I'll have the install instructions coming in for those of you who haven't installed Bonfire before, and we'll be able to get all that stood up. Let's see here. Okay. Almost there. Okay. Let's see here. All right, for those of you just joining, welcome to the 2024 Gobble Jam. My name is Scott, and I'm with a company called Dimension X, and we are the creators of a product called Bonfire, which is what this game jam is all about. And what we're going to be doing with the 2024 Gobble Jam is we are going to be creating together over the course of the next couple days an experience that is themed after Thanksgiving or just this lovely fall time of year. And the theme is going to be all about cooking and trying to come up with a fun and innovative way to celebrate the fact that this is normally the time frame where everybody is, gearing up to eat a whole bunch of food. So, to start with, I want to make sure that we go over some ground rules. So let me go ahead and fade on over here. So this is Gobble Jam, a no code gaming cook-off. So bit of a misnomer. You actually can code if you want, but it's in Bonfire's runtime scripting language called Ember. It runs just like Python, so if you're familiar with Python, should be fairly at home. And the ground rules are pretty simple, right? This jam is really meant to try and encourage people to give Bonfire a shot and to help us know what the friction points are to make it better. So we do ask that you do use Bonfire in the making of whatever content you'd like to make during the process of this game jam. Bonfire is free and available on Steam using this link here. And in general, just to kind of give us a theme to orient around, we want it to be about either making food, serving food, consuming food, or stacking food is what we're after here. And then, of course, whatever the winner will be, they will be featured on our website. They'll also be featured on the Bonfire product itself. And the end goal here really is to just try and jumpstart the Bonfire community with some additional content. And we'll be here the entire time to help you through the process of making whatever you like to make. So to get started, obviously you'll need Bonfire. So that link is right there. I'll also walk you through how to find it normally. So if we go to the featured page here, Steam is doing a cooking fest right now. So that's kind of where our theme came from. But if you go to the search bar and type up Bonfire, there are a couple games that involve Bonfire. We are the free one right here. And we are a content creation platform, or a game engine made on a game engine would be another way to think of it. Right? And so then you'll just go ahead and make sure that you have your Steam account created, add us to your library and install. And then from there, when you launch Bonfire, you can see I already have it running. That'll bring up this guy right here. All right. So let me just go ahead and go to the launcher. And we'll skip straight to the builder, actually. So when you jump into Bonfire, you're going to get this launcher here. You got Builder, Sparkifier, Mapifier, and Player. And just a quick breakdown of what these do. Builder is where you author your content. Player is where you play your content. And Sparkifier and Mapifier are how you can make your sparks and maps accordingly. Maps are your levels. So that's your level design, your kitchen, your restaurant, etc. And sparks are going to be everything that's interactive. So the plates, the turkey, etc. Right? And then once you are ready to start, let me transition over here. There we go. And let me position myself a little better here. Shrink me down a little bit. Can you tell I was well prepared? All right, so you're going to get a screen that looks like this when you launch the builder. If you don't have an account yet, it's really simple to create one. You just hit this Need an Account button here, and it's going to go through asking for an email address and a password, and then you hit register. Quick little authentication token thing that you'll have to go through. It sends it to your email. It's just to make sure the email is valid, and then you are off to the races. That'll then take you to this screen. So we do have an example book that we are sharing with all of you to try and make it easier to jumpstart things along. It's going to be this share code here. And the way you add that is you'll go to Add Book, Remote. You'll type in that share code right here, and I'll paste it into the chat here in a minute. And then just make sure it's on release source. And that'll then give you an entry like this. So when you first pop in, it'll be a bit more blank, right? So not even this will be here. But once you're set up, it should look more like this. Okay, so let me go ahead and type in that share code so you guys have it. 1 second. So we are looking at XBTSYE is the share code. We'll go ahead and load it up. Okay. Okay. It's a big book, so it's going to take a minute, especially when I'm streaming. All right. So this is the Bonfire Builder. This is a drag and drop system designed to make it really easy for anyone to be able to make what they would like without having to jump into officially compiling code or having to learn something more robust like Unity or Unreal. So everything in here is designed to be drag and drop simple. So what we have here is we've got the chapter tree on the left. This is how you will navigate through your book, the book being the experience itself. So right now, the first thing you're going to want to do actually is you're going to want to shuffle the share code. So what we'll do in order to take this and make it our own is we'll go ahead and say save as. That'll bring up a file dialog, which you can't see for security reasons. And then what you'll do is you'll just save the file off as my bonfirecooking.mxb or any other name you want to give it. Okay. And then we're going to shuffle the share code using this little circle arrow here. So that gives us a new share code. I'll hit save. And what this now means is that I can publish this as my own to Bonfire. So I'm going to go ahead and publish it to debug just to show you how quick that is. Ooh, hello. Fun times. Hey, Kyle, if you're watching, that was a fun little experience. So that won't work. We'll get that fixed. But you should still be able to use this because essentially what's happening there is there's sparks that are in the downloads folder that need to get moved over into the My Sparks folder. So I can actually walk you through how to fix that. So what we'll do is we will actually go to here. I'll bring it up and show it here in just a minute. So in the event that you run into that problem, the fix is going to be, here, let me go back to gaming. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so if you're onto that problem, the fix is you want to go to your user profile on your C drive. This is a workaround. We'll fix it, but this is a workaround. And then you're going to go to View, if you're on Windows, Show Hidden Items. And you'll want to go to App Data, which should be, hello. Interesting. My computer appears to be giving me some trouble. Huh. Well, so what you would do is you go to App Data Local Low, Dimension X Bonfire, Assets, Sparks, Downloads, and there'll be a whole laundry list of files there. Just copy those over to the My Sparks folder, and you'll be good to go. I'll see what's going on with my computer and post a video about that workaround here in a minute. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and continue. So this sample book has some very simple mechanics that we can play around with. It's themed after Overcooked, if you're familiar with that game at all. And so the idea here is we want to make some dishes and send them out for delivery. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and press play, which will then bring us into the game mode. And I don't think I have audio piping over for the game, but that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a burger. So what we're going to do is where we see that blue laser, that means that we can actually pick this up. So I'm going to press R to grab. And then I want to go ahead and put that on the plate there. And then I want to grab the burger patty, bring that over to the pan. That's going to start cooking. Okay, cooking complete. I'm going to pick it up. Boom, got a cheeseburger, right? So now I'm going to pick up the cheeseburger, put it on the delivery plate, and off to the races it goes. Same thing for the steak. Pick up the steak, take it over to the pan. It's cooking. And should be done here in just a few seconds. Done. Cool. So should see, yep, there it is. Pick it up and drop it. Drop it. There we go. Boom. Right? Now, obviously, that's very simple, not exactly what I would consider to be a complete game, but it at least shows how you can institute some core mechanics. So in fact, let me fade back over to this since I'm just showing the builder. So once this loads back up the chapter, so I was in play mode there, I exited play mode, it reloads the chapter to bring me back into edit mode. And then I'll show you how that all got set up. Ooh, yeah. So it's all right. We'll roll with this. If you see this, what this is this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, where it's failing to find the sparks. So the fastest way to solve this is we're actually just going to go ahead and something's up with my computer is what it is. And of course, doing a live stream, it's going to act up. So what we're actually going to do here is I'm going to transfer back over to the launcher. I'm going to kill the builder, relaunch it. Okay. There we go. All right, I'll log back in. All right, so as you can see here, I've got, oh, interesting. So that's what happened. So basically, when I shuffled it, it kept it as a remote. So Kyle, my CTO and co-creator of Bonfire, that is a problem. We should get that fixed. So what we can do in the meantime is we'll go ahead and reload the original remote. Okay. And normally it's faster than this, but with me live streaming and something being up at my computer, it's taking a little bit longer. That's okay. We'll work through it. Here we go. So what I was wanting to show was how we set up that set of mechanics. So if I go into Map Explorer, I can actually toggle my camera view here to 3D. You can see my player character, right? And you can also see all these different sparks. So if I click on this guy, for example, this is what's known as a spark, right? This is called Burger Bun. A spark is similar to a game object in Unity or an actor in Unreal, except that unlike either of those, where you have to manually add logic to them through the components type of setup, sparks come built in with all of your logic already good to go. So if I go into the Behaviors tab here, you'll see that we've got all of these visual nodes, very similar to blueprints in Unreal, except unlike blueprints, we've simplified things even further into what we call causes and effects. Causes are things that people can do to a spark. Effects are things that sparks can do in response. We also have modifier nodes, which allow for special things like chapter started. So for example, you can see that we are kicking off the music when the chapter starts, which you would not have heard because for whatever reason, my audio stream is not working right now. But what we can do is I can search for bun. Yep, right here. That's bun plate, bun on plate. So, yep, okay. So we're going to go to bun plate, which I believe is this guy right here. Yep, bun plate. So what we have set up here is when the bun plate trigger is collided with, it will force drop the bun ingredient and will show the bun on the plate. Right, so there's actually a bun on the plate here already, right? And so what we're doing is we are setting up a state where if we have a trigger with, so like here's the bun ingredient right here, bun ingredient, right? If I have this in my hand and I cause it to run into the bun plate, right? So that's the spark reference here. Then it will force drop that, and then it will trigger the one that's already on the plate to be visible. That way we don't have to worry about lining it up perfectly. It just snaps into place. We then go ahead and modify that the bun ingredient that I had in my hand is no longer visible. And then it will delay for 3 seconds and then respawn the bun ingredients back to where it's supposed to be, right? That gives you a basic idea of how you build logic out in Bonfire. Now, we are currently in a 1-chapter book, right? But you can very easily call this intro level and then create a new chapter, right? And so then what can happen is I can go ahead and here, let me save, open, and this will open up a blank chapter, right? So this is what you will typically see when you open up a brand new book. It's just our empty field. Controls wise, what I'm doing is I am right click and dragging to move the camera around. I can then also use WASD on the keyboard to move around, spacebar to jump, and then the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, right? And then I can change my camera view by using this button down here. And then I can also disable and enable gravity. So I'm going up by pressing the spacebar, down by pressing Alt, and I can move around as well. It can be quite handy, right? So you can see I'm falling back down. We've got another missing spark. What's going on with this? What is this guy? Default HUD. All right, fun times. Okay, so you've got a couple different kinds of sparks in Bonfire. You have the spawn point. This is what's known as an environment spark. Reflection probe is another one. So if you go to environment, all of these are environment sparks. So I can also do triggers. Triggers are volumes that you can set to where when something engages with this or triggers it, right, you can then have logic happen. So you can say, okay, when collided with, I want it to go ahead and do something, right? You can also do lights, right? So you can see how those look. Lights, we currently support two different types, points and spotlights. Spotlights are going to, the rotation gizmo is not showing up, but that's okay. There we go. So you can see they're more directional, whereas spot is going to be point is going to be exactly as it suggests, where it's just kind of an omniscient light in all directions. Then you also have portal, which can be very handy. So portals you can use to quickly transport someone from one place to another. So basically when someone engages with it, you can teleport them using that effect. You can set a spawn point for a portal destination, right? Pretty handy. And then that is not the extent of things, because we also have entity sparks, which are things like the avatars, right? So I can drag in some NPC characters here. So I can put in Eric. I can go to first person view here, right? And Eric has his own causes and effects. Every spark is going to have that same kind of setup. You've also got primitives. So if I just wanted to put a cube somewhere, I can do that. As you can see, Map Explorer gives me more of the player view. Map Editor gives more of a top-down view, which can be handy when you're just trying to place things in the scene. And then let's say I wanted to create a UI. So one of the ways that I can do that is I can go to Symbol Sparks. Symbols are all UI sparks. All of these require a UI container to work. So we're going to go ahead and go to UI containers, and I'll go ahead and set up a billboard. Okay. And then this billboard becomes the container for my UI. So if I go over to the UI editor, you can see billboard is selected here. And now I can do things like drag a bit of text onto here. And we're going to go ahead and make that red in coloration, give it a center alignment, and go ahead and start scaling it up. So let's do 800 for the width, 400 for the height, and make the size 128. And then say my test text, right? So now if I go into my Explorer, you can see there it is, my test text, right? And so I can also do buttons, inventory, drop downs, all kinds of fun stuff on that. Okay, we also have a Spark collection. So as I mentioned before, sparks are all the different things that you can interact with in the world, right? So some of them have collision, like this cube. Others, like the trigger, you can walk right through, right? And then others are, visuals that you can engage with and interact with, like this NPC character here. And so what we did was we threw together a asset pack. So you can access this by clicking on the gear up here. And we've got this event, Gobble Jam 2024. So you can just make sure that's clicked, hit download selected, the loading bar will load up. And then you'll also have access to this folder here, which has stylized food. All right, so for example, I can put some bread on this cube here, or it can go inside. No, it went over here. Okay. Here we go. And then I can actually go into Map Editor and zoom in on that and hit snap. So then snap it to the ground there. Cool. And then I've also got farm birds. So wouldn't be much of a Gobble Jam without a turkey. So I can grab turkey, just kind of stick it in here. And as you can see, it already has all of its animations, right? So I can click on it and I can say animation play. I've got all these different animations here. Walk, swim, squat, sleep, run angry, etc. Right? Prancing, get hit, death, right? So if I just want to have it fall over on me, I've got a couple different options. Let me actually just make it when I interact with it. So you'll notice there's this little yellow triangle here. What that means is I have to mark it as is interactable. That'll make that go away. And then the blue hashing means that everything is frozen to start with. So if I try and interact with it, it's not going to do anything. In fact, if I show the third person view, you'll see my character is just waving at it. Anytime your character's waving, that means that there's nothing really that it's able to interact with. But if I go and unfreeze, I interact, boom, he falls over, right? Easy peasy. Now, important to note, when you unfreeze your book like this, if I refreeze it, you'll notice he doesn't go back to standing back up, right? And that's because play is where you should go if you're wanting to actually test it and not save your changes. Freezing and unfreezing allows you to do something a little bit different where you can trigger all of your different causes and effects and have the state that that creates actually persist. Like the changes all persist. Some people like that, some people don't. And if you are in play mode and you find, I actually want to keep all the changes that I've implemented here, you can just uncheck this reset on stop button, and that'll go ahead and make sure that your changes save. And remember, unless you actually click the save button, nothing will actually save to the book. So here I can also, just like, for example, let's say I accidentally triggered the death animation and I need to reset them. I can go ahead and create a debug modifier node, unfreeze, and then I'll click on the Mr. Turkey here, and I'm going to say animation play, and I'm going to set him back to idle. Trigger. Boom. Back to normal, right? Also, if I wanted to make sure he started off idling, I can also say, let's go ahead and say on chapter start, I want to trigger that same thing, right? Now, let's say I wanted all of this to not take up so much space, right? So one of the easiest ways to do that is I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of these. I'm going to click subgraph. You'll notice they disappeared, and I'm going to say start. Chapter started. Right? And so now, with this subgraph, I've collapsed all of those nodes into one node. And if I hit open, I now have that logic that I had created inside that subnode. So it's a way of just kind of organizing things a bit better. I can also do something like grab these guys, and I can say group, which then gives me a new group that I can move it around. And I can say kill the turkey, right? And now I've got this group that I can move around, keeps it all together. I can also add a comment, right? So comment nodes let you add some additional text. This is a test comment. What do you think? And I can add that anywhere as well, just to make sure that, let's say I wanted to explain why I'm doing some particular logic here, I can do that. And then additionally, if you want to add additional notes to your book, we have a notes tab where you can add a note, give it a name. And this is where you might be able to have some documentation. If you have a design document at all, you can outline the story here. So we can say the adventures of Mr. Turkey, right? And I can save that. And now that becomes a note that people can see when they are actively editing the book. We also have the settings tab. So for things like mouse sensitivity in the first person view, I can adjust the UI scale up and down, right? And then I've also got different modes. Generally speaking, you're going to want either standard or performant mode. Battery saver will dip your frame rate just to help make sure, like if you're on a laptop or something, we're not killing your battery. Now let's say we wanted to do another chapter. And this one's going to be the underbelly. All right, so I can go ahead and drag that over. And you can see here that we can set this up however we want in terms of you're not stuck to a linear progression. This isn't a first level 1, then level 2 type of situation. You can have complete control over how the chapters engage with each other. And the way you do that is by the change chapter modifier. So this is a one-ended effect, aka you can't trigger anything after it. But when we decide what the conditions are that require a chapter change, you would then just trigger this. And then you can choose any chapter that is linked in the chapter tree, right? So right now I don't have anything following new chapters. So new chapter is all I can pick here. But if I were to come into here and do this, now when I come in here, you can see I can grab the underbelly, right? And so if I go ahead and save, load up the underbelly, what I want to do here is I want to go ahead and change my map. So what I'm going to do is go to my map browser, and I'm going to go to low poly. I'm going to grab dungeons, drag it in, boom. Now I've got a dungeon, right? That's all fine and dandy, but now my spawn point's way up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to here. Let me get X-ray on. There we go. So X-ray lets you see through geometry, and you define at what level that is, right? So you can see I can get to different levels, different heights, right? And the reason why we have the map editor as top-down only is because Map Explorer does give you that 3D view where you can still click on things and move things around. However, what the Map Explorer struggles with is if you just need to very quickly lay things out like, chess pieces on a chessboard, this is a much easier way to do that. And it's also touch friendly. So the builder does work on iPad OS. It's not officially public yet, just because we're still doing some polish on it. But we are trying to keep everything as touch friendly as possible. Big buttons, sliders, top-down editors, things of that sort. All right, so what I want to do here is I want to go ahead and grab these objects. I'm going to move them. So I want my spawn point close to the ground. So I'm going to rotate them. And then I'm going to snap it to the ground. There we go. So I go to Map Explorer. You can see they are now on the ground. But the reflection probe needs to be a bit higher. So I'm going to bring them up here. But now at least my spawn point is in the correct spot. Actually, I want it a bit further up. We'll do there. Boom. Bring it up a little bit. And map editor, snap. Awesome. Okay, so I've changed my map. I can now start to populate this area. So if I wanted to, I could go into low poly, dungeons. All of these are available in the asset config section, by the way. So low poly dungeon right there. Props. And I can start just laying stuff in here. So I got table, I've got a book on the table. Nope, that is a book on a pedestal. I'll put that here. I also want a book to go on the table, right? And this is what I mean by the power of the top-down editor. You can see as I'm laying things down, that one got a little messed up because I put it on top of the table. There we go. As I'm laying things down, you can see things are automatically snapping to where they need to be. And then, you can see here, I can only really click on one object at a time. But in the map editor, I can click and drag. Click and drag. Lovely. There we go. And I can move things around that way. Okay. Another more advanced trick, like let's say I wanted to put a flying boar in the room here. I can go to low poly animals and grab a boar. And let's say I wanted to make this boar a little bigger. So I can go ahead and just scale them up. I did that by grabbing the gray cube in the center here. Let's say I wanted to bring them up here. There's only so high I can go, right? But if I, whoop. There we go. But if I actually disable physics, grab this and then press the space bar, you can see it comes with me. Pretty handy stuff, that, right? And so now I can say, okay, I want to go to behaviors and I want him to, for example, wander, right? And I can set that up using that. But let's say I wanted a more specific behavior with this boar. And so wander's not going to cut it for me. I want to do something much more specific. And so that's where Ember comes into play, where if for whatever reason the provided causes and effects don't cut it. What you can do is you can go to modifier, ember, right? I'm going to call this flying boar. I can open it up. And now what I've got is I've actually got my runtime scripting language that I can use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this flying boar. And I can start typing up some Ember code. So I'm going to call this boar equals sparkref flying boar. And then I don't know necessarily what I have available to me on the boar. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to say print boar. I'm going to go to the console here. I'm going to clear this out. And then I'm going to hit run. And then right down here and with the Ember logo, you'll see I've got the output of what's all available to me, right? So what I know now is I can access, for example, those are trait names. Oh, wait. So I don't need trait names. I need traits. There we go. So I have access to all kinds of things here. So by accessing traits, I can access anything that's shown in the traits tab. So what I want to access is its position. So let me just double check here to make sure that that is the correct syntax. There we go. All of this is also available on our docs site. So that's docs.demx.dev. I'll post that in the chat here as well. There you go. And so now that I have access to the position, one of the things that I can do is I can reset it. So I can say, okay, boar.traits.position. Let's say I wanted to kind of clean this up a little bit. We're going to set it to 2, -3. Right? And if I run that, you'll see he snaps to that position. Okay? And so then from here, it's just like any other scripting language. I can say for I in range 1, 10, 1, let's do 0. Yeah, 0.1. And 4, and then I want to yield, so that way it goes and returns a frame, right? And then I'm going to say boar.traits.position, right, equals, just to give an example here, okay? So if I run this, oh, yeah, there we go. So if I run this, you'll see he's going the wrong direction, but he's moving, okay? Now, this was called a no coding jam. So I want to be clear, I'm not expecting you guys to do this, but I just wanted to show that it is in fact possible. And then I can save it to the node, and then this becomes triggerable by this node, this Ember node here. So I can link that up, hit trigger, boom. See? Simple as that. Now, let's say I have my own models that I want to bring to the table and integrate into a game. You're not limited to just the content that is currently on Bonfire. You can also, if I go back to the launcher here, you'll recall the Sparkifier and Mapifier buttons here. So depending upon what you want it to be, whether you want it to be the level that you're walking around on or something that you can interact with, that'll determine which one you launch. If I go back to gaming here, there we go, just to show everything. So if I, for example, if I go into Mapifier, it's going to take a minute to launch up. There we go. Create map is still very much in the works, but import map does exist, and it allows you to import any GLB file you want to then very easily import it as a map. So I've got this GLB file here, you can see, boom, right? So I can hit build and deploy, export map spark, and I'm going to throw that here. And then back in the builder, if I go to my map browser, my maps, Dirty Street. So I don't want to mess up my current dungeon. So if I go back to new chapter, for example, and I drag in dirty street, there's my dirty street, right? That is a very small map, obviously, but you get the idea. So the other thing that I can do is I can go into Sparkifier. Let me shrink this down. And Sparkifier allows you to create all those different types of sparks I was talking about. So you've got entity, config, symbol, audio. You can also go more advanced and drill down deeper if you want. So we've got under entity, for example, we've got all kinds of things: joints, weapons, environments, creatures. Sky's the limit, really. But here's the 4 basics. So entity are interactive 3D objects. Configs are actually here. So things like if I wanted to change the sky, I can go to Spark Browser, go to config, skies. I can change it to, say, night 3, right? Give it a spookier vibe, right? Those are all config sparks. They're things that affect the book, but don't necessarily have like an anchored position in the scene, right? And then we also have symbol sparks, which you know about for the UI side of things. And then audio sparks, which is for things like music, sound effects, things of that sort. So if I click entity, I click browse, the actor file path, this is going to be your GLB model that you want to use, right? So if I go and do, let's see here, let's try this one. There we go. Yep, this is my hand painted knight. Little GLB file here. I can give it a name, my knight. It's going to be an entity. And then I'm going to build and deploy. What that does is it automatically sends it off to Bonfire. And then I have the option of adding Ember scripts here for causes and effects and traits, my own custom stuff. I also can add additional data if I need to. So things like additional pictures, things of that sort. Hit build spark. Okay, and then it's going to ask me to save the Spark file. And then when I come back to the Spark browser and I go to my Sparks, I've got my knight. Drag him in. There he is. He's a little small. Let me make him a little bigger. Boom. Just like that, right? And he's got, just like with any other Spark, he has causes and effects right on top of him, already good to go. Right? So if I go to behaviors, standard causes, standard effects. And remember, you can always add more using Ember. And that's the gist of it, folks. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So this is the just initial breakdown of what Bonfire is and how to use it. I will be available in Discord throughout the course of the jam. And if you have any questions, things like that, feel free to ask. For those of you who have not yet joined the Discord, I will go ahead and pop in a link right now. Here we go. Okay. And yeah, I'll be checking in throughout the next couple days. I'll be posting progress on my own book that I'll be making. And some of these bugs that we've run into, we'll also be posting workarounds or maybe even a hot patch to try and make it a little bit easier for everybody. And then other than that, I'll see you around on the Discord. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. Take care.